State Disaster Management Authority is headed by the Chief Minister and as the chairman, and we have also what we call the State Executive Committee headed by the Chief Secretary. So this particular authority is supposed to play a very key coordinative role in matters of disaster relief and response caused primarily out of natural disasters, and of course in eventualities of, for example, man-made disasters like bomb blasts and nuclear and biological warfare. But those things are like in a way far-fetched as far as our present situation is concerned. So right now we are here dealing with natural disasters primarily caused by events such as landslides, possibly earthquake, and also flash floods, flooding, cloudbursts, so on and so forth. It is our endeavor to ensure that up to the last habitation in Nagaland, people are safe, people are well aware about disaster management, the concepts and practice of it.
I, Sri P.B. Acharya, the Governor of Nagaland, on the occasion of Republic Day, the 26th January 2016, do hereby formally commission the Nagaland State Disaster Response Force, SDRF. Thank you very much.
Treatment of a wounded leg. Make the patient lie down, and in case of a neck injury, treatment should be given with utmost care. The leg should be provided splints to firmly support without aggravating the wound and carefully lifted sideways before strapping the patient onto the stretcher. Stroke. A patient suffering from stroke should be given a cardiopulmonary resuscitation, also known as CPR, to maintain viability until advanced help arrives. Lift the right arm to support the head. Bend the left leg and place the left arm across the chest. Make him lie sideways to prevent further complications. Impaled wound. Do not remove the impaled object stuck in the body. Instead, bandage the wound carefully until proper medical aid is provided. Head injury. Start off with a headband knot and then gradually cover the whole area of injury. Hand injury. Simply bandage the wound to prevent any further contamination or injury.
This program is being organized by the Nagaland State Disaster Management Authority in collaboration with NIST in Jorhat and National Disaster Management Authority in Delhi. Now, this program basically is to sensitize the school children on earthquake hazards. School children will be the best ambassador to spread the message of safety in the state. That's the reason we have gathered the schools from 15 schools in Kohima. We will be expecting around 1,000 and plus children to be here today.
This is called the earthquake.
We have home guards people manning that emergency operations center.
Instruct the other classes.
Second term. Go for you. Bisa? Yes. Paribu? Yes.
The Village Disaster Management Authority comprises of the village council members, including the VDB secretary, and is headed by the chairman of the village council. The VDMA has set up a village disaster management core committee to devise disaster response mechanisms for the villages and coordinates with the government authorities.
We have notified the constitution of Village Disaster Management Authority in each and every village. Now, these are members drawn from the community itself, from the village itself, who have a permanent stake in disaster management activities and initiatives. It is a totally non-remunerative exercise in that we function on the principle of volunteerism. Okay, and then we leave that to the village council to identify the right people, including women members, female members, which is very important because disasters affect people all the same, yes, but you know, for women folk and for children, the dimensions could be totally different. In that, if you are dealing with a disaster and you have a pregnant woman, for example, or a woman who is going through health issues, problems, now at such levels, nothing better than another woman, a well-informed, well-trained woman dealing with such crisis, rather than have men do it. And besides that, we also have what we call the Village Disaster Management Core Committee, and these are mostly comprised of youth, people in between the ages of 30 and 50, who are in a position to be of active service to the community in times of emergency and disaster. These are the people whom we are targeting to train, and in fact we have trained people and many more villages are to be covered. In Kohima town itself, in the past we have conducted this CFR training for Kohima village, a new market, and a couple of other such localities within the main city area. And the central idea behind this is that when an emergency or a disaster strikes, if we have a community people who are knowledgeable, who have been trained, then before any external help comes to them, they should also be in a position to help themselves.
I think maybe around 90% of all buildings in towns are RCC buildings. Yes, and then we have lots of Assam type buildings also.
We don't have any proper town planning here in Kohima or the rest of the other towns in the state. Mostly the pattern of buildings, shapes, sizes of the buildings, most of them are haphazard. And not to forget the towering mushroom type of buildings which are coming up.
Structure pattern, that depends on the shape of the property, in the sense that if the property shape is triangle, the house shape is triangle. So if it's circle, the house shape comes up as circle.
For the safety or for earthquake protection, here are some technique where we can protect our building. Bracing for all corners, so that the whole building moves as a unit. And then the projecting parts, that is the cantilever, should be avoided. Projection of veranda, sort of things like that. Building should be, as far as possible, should be symmetrical in plans and elevations, and preferably suspended ceilings should be avoided. And then building should not be more than G+3 on any load-bearing wall.
And then if someone wants to construct it to the more than that, so he can adopt special measures or preventive measures during the construction stages by following the building code, which has been already specified for this seismic activities and all.
Building bylaws are certain rules or regulations that maybe the PWD or maybe say the municipal corporations set out for certain jurisdictions. So if you build a building in a certain jurisdiction, you have to get permission from them.
One should, use proper reinforcement, that is those steel bars. Then one should use good quality bricks. Then use earthquake-proofing materials. Nowadays, there's a trend, going in this new upcoming buildings where there are less walls and more doors and windows, more openings and all. But we should know that those are, those weaken the structure. Like 50% of the opening, there should be 50% walls. Another thing is using this glass facades. Those glass facades during these earthquakes also, it's quite dangerous because glass are brittle, so it can cause casualty also.
In this type of screening, we inspect a building and visually we inspect, so there is no technical calculations or structural calculations involved, just the visual screening. We see how safe the building is by observing the structure of the buildings. And second step is, if the buildings are unsafe, we recommend solutions for that. So solutions can be either to renovate the building or to demolish the building.
So the RVS for Nagaland was to assess a certain number of schools, whether they were safe or not. So we went around doing the survey for certain schools, and we found that a lot of schools are structurally unsafe. Yes, and basically the safe nature of the buildings arose due to the haphazard nature of construction. We tend to not think about the future. Nagaland is lucky in the aspect that we have not faced any major disasters, whether it's in the form of earthquakes or floods or any other type of disasters. So I think we have grown very accustomed to the decent way of life that we have. More so than anything else, the construction industry needs to wake up and start practicing good construction practices.
Earthquake in Nepal also, which we have all witnessed, that cost thousands of lives. We can see that most of the casualties that happen there is because of, not because of the magnitude of the earthquake, it's more because of the unsafe buildings. So the culprit is, there's a saying which goes like, earthquakes don't kill, unsafe buildings too. So I think the Nepal earthquake, that is like one of the best example of that. If anybody wants to construct a house, they should comply to the building code. Even though their wages may be high, they should use trained mason instead of compromising on the quality of work by employing cheap labor. Even though if it's going to cost you a little bit extra also, one should invest in this earthquake proofing design.
When constructing buildings, I think you should always consult a civil engineer so that the building is safe when an earthquake does strike, so that your family will be safe.
I'm tempted here to refer to the 1897 earthquake, the biggest one to have occurred in the northeastern region. So at that point in time, the intensity recorded was about 8.7 on the Richter scale. If an earthquake of similar intensity as the Shillong earthquake were to take place today, then the damage to both property, infrastructure, life would be so massive, it will be very difficult for us to regain normalcy. It may take generations also to come back to normalcy. We have not, fortunately, not been visited by any big major tragedy, but if it were to occur, I think we are not prepared, very frankly speaking. Have faith in God, and hopefully a big disaster should not test us anytime soon, before at least our systems are put in place.
Reports say buildings have collapsed in the capital Kathmandu. Shockwaves have been felt as far away as the Indian capital, New Delhi.
Near the base camp of Mount Everest. It was a 7.4 quake. The one that devastated Nepal on April 25th was 7.8. So it's smaller, but not by much. We're just getting reports now that, as you mentioned, some buildings have been destroyed, particularly one in Jantara village, which is about a 2.5-hour drive from Kathmandu.
When you open up to the sunrise, your eyes lights up to the bluey skies. When you breathe in the air that surrounds you, you feel the life move with you. work together.